Hey guys, somebody had 3 touchdowns in a preseason half. Let's talk about it. All right, so Justin Fields and the Bears went against the Cleveland Browns yesterday in a preseason game, and Justin Fields threw 3 touchdowns in the first half. This is a encouraging sign. I mean, I'm not gonna jump off the boat like a bunch. I'm not gonna hop on the boat like all these other guys saying that this is showing what's going to happen in the regular season because they kind of forget the other 2 preseason games that happened. But those aren't nearly really Justin Fields' fault. But here's my point. Let me start by saying that I don't hate Justin Fields. I really like him. Let me go back to like when I was scouting to see who I would take if I was number one pick for my quarterback 2 years ago for that draft. So I saw Justin Fields his sophomore year at Ohio State, and I was impressed. I mean, he got picked off in that I think it was semifinals. Got picked off because Chris Olave didn't run the right route, and to me, I was like, that dude threw with anticipation, and he paid for it. But in the NFL, that's a touchdown, and he's winning that game. Really impressive. That sophomore year, loved everything about Justin Fields. Junior year starts going on, and I'm thinking, all right, everyone's talking about Trevor Lawrence because he won the championship his freshman year. He's not really that good. And who's this Zach Wilson guy out of BYU? Who's good out of BYU? So I was like, Justin Fields is probably the best quarterback here, and nobody's talking about it as much because he's an Ohio State quarterback, which do not have good track records. So as I'm watching that season go on, and then I start analyzing each of their games, I went in thinking, I feel like I'm going to have Justin Fields above Trevor Lawrence, and then it'll be kind of Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson. And I saw Justin Fields probably going to be a clear cut guy, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be a big bust. And when I watched the film, Justin Fields, his junior year, it just wasn't pretty, in my opinion. He let me down big time. I expected him to grow from his sophomore year, but honestly, his sophomore year, I think that Justin Fields would be a better pro than his junior year. Okay, I get it's not really true because he's got a whole another year of growth, but I think he took a step back, and I think that's due in part because Olave and Wilson weren't established receivers his sophomore year, and then his junior year, he knew that he could rely on those guys, so he did. He relied on them. He didn't rely on his processing. He had Trey Sermon in the backfield, and he had Wilson and Olave. And honestly, I can't blame him. Those are fantastic receivers, and I would have done the exact same thing. But I think it kind of hurt his development. So as I was watching him, Trevor Lawrence kind of came out as the top guy, but I loved Zach Wilson. I thought Zach Wilson was either 1 or 2. If I was going to go big, I'm going to go Zach Wilson. Safe pick, Trevor Lawrence. And then 3, thought it was, without a doubt, Justin Fields. Trey Lance hadn't thrown a pass in a year. Okay, he had the show-off game, but honestly, he didn't even play that well. And then you had Mac Jones, who I saw as the quarterback who could run a college offense but didn't have a good enough arm and couldn't handle pressure super well. People saw him as the next Joe Burrow, and you might still think that after that year, but I don't think he's like that. So that's where I was. I had Lawrence 1, Wilson 2, Fields 3. And those 3 were pretty close. It wasn't, I think there was a drop off after those 3 to Lance and Jones. And then rookie year, those 3 got put in the worst situations possible. Offensive lines for all 3 of them were terrible. I think Lawrence and Fields and Wilson, but mainly Lawrence and Fields, made them look better just by escaping other sacks, especially Lawrence because he started more. But then also the receivers. I mean, Justin Fields had Darnell Mooney and then A-Rob, but he didn't have time to throw to any of them. Wilson had Corey Davis and a rookie Elijah Moore, but rookie receivers don't contribute much usually, except for Justin Jefferson and Odell. But usually they don't contribute a whole lot, especially like second round one. So I don't think anybody expected anything out of him. And then Trevor Lawrence had DJ Chark go out in like week 3 or something like that, so he didn't have hardly any receivers either. His best receiver was Marvin Jones for the season, who was a solid number 2 in his prime. So all of them put in terrible situations. Lawrence also had the worst coach in NFL history, probably. And then we get into the offseason. The Jets did it right. They upgraded the receiver core. They should have done better with the offensive line, I think, but they're working on it. I think Fields and Lawrence on the Jets would be scary. I think Fields or Lawrence, especially, I think Fields would have thrived in San Francisco. I have no idea why they drafted Trey Lance over Justin Fields. I think that was a huge mistake, one they'll regret for the rest of their franchise's history. But I think the Jets did well with the weapons. I think the Jags did well with the line, and I don't think the Bears did well with anything. Their offensive line is marginally better. I think Tevin Jenkins, I think they're mishandling him. He is a starter, whether it's left or right tackle, and they're just kind of, seems like they're dropping the ball with him. You just got Darnell Mooney at receiver, who he's a good receiver, but I don't know if he's a strong number one. He's their number one because that's all they got. And David Montgomery's okay. Trevor Lawrence, he's got Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Marvin Jones, who are they're all like number two receivers, solid number two receivers. And that's kind of like how a Doug Peterson offense runs, though. So his situation is not terrible, and he's got a good offensive line. Now, they spent big on Brandon Sheriff, but I feel bad for Justin Fields because the man didn't have much invested into his offensive line. What they did invest, they're mishandling, and his receivers are severely lacking. I mean, they got Darnell Mooney, but that doesn't really move the needle a whole lot for me. I don't want the Darnell Mooney fans coming at me, but I'm just saying. So he goes out in the first two games of preseason. Everyone is alarmed. They're saying, how are we going to do anything with how sorry this offensive line is? Justin Fields is getting killed on every play, and it's preseason. He's having to throw screens. He's having to roll out, which is good that they're having him roll out so much. I hope they can keep it going. And then this game happens against the Browns, who sat out a lot of starters. Myles Garrett didn't play. Of course, Denzel Ward didn't play. Ronnie Harrison didn't play. I'm sure there's other starters that didn't play. Those are just some ones that come to mind. And Justin Fields made him pay. He had 3 touchdowns in the first half. Looked good. He was protected. He ran around a bit. There were some of his touchdowns. The one to the wide open guy in the right corner of the end zone, it was actually kind of, I think it was a little late, but I mean, it's preseason. It doesn't matter. He was waiting for his guy to get open, but honestly, he should have moved off it to the next guy. That's what I'm saying with his processing. And with the other ones, though, he made a good play to the guy in the left corner. Both times. The one time it was just a great route, like open guy. It's still a tough throw. I see Trevor Lawrence miss open throws like that. And he made it. Good throw. Good touchdown. And then the other one between the safety and corner that were colliding. Also good. But on some of those botched plays by those corners who probably aren't starters. But what do you expect Justin Fields to do? You expect him to take advantage of those. But my point is, if this whole video is wait 2 weeks, wait till week 1, because I see people on the internet saying Justin Fields is way better than Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. And that might be true eventually. But, I mean, people forget how well Trevor Lawrence played against the Steelers. That ball that he layered over the corner, it was a fantastic ball. And Zach Wilson, he didn't really do much in the preseason. But who knows? He's got the best supporting cast receiver-wise and running back-wise that he might have a better season. I just think that there's not enough to support Justin Fields right now, and I don't want these Justin Fields fans and Bears fans to be discouraged by that, by getting their hopes up high, only to be disappointed by how they perform. And I don't believe it'll be Justin Fields' fault. I believe Justin Fields can succeed and can be a franchise quarterback. But when you're in the preseason, don't look at the performance to say he's better at processing. Look at him. He's moving off his reads in the preseason. I mean, sure, he's supposed to right now. But people that are saying, yeah, his processing is so much better, stop talking about that. Just watch it. That's not what you watch the preseason for. You know what you can see in the preseason? Accuracy, mechanics, throwing motion, and they all look great. I had somebody telling me about how he scored on a high on a test about IQ by Mark Sanchez and why that was indicative of why he's good at processing. Something about like but it was about retention of a playbook, not the same thing. He said that's an objective stat that tells why that he's good at processing, but he's not yet. He might be. We'll see this year. But when you watch preseason, don't watch for the performance. I mean, yes, they're supposed to perform well, but just because they perform well, don't jump off the bandwagon. Look at Justin Fields. See his new motion. See, dang, it looks good. It's tight. It's nice. It's accurate. His feet, they're nice. They're aligned. He's doing well. He's got command of the offense right now against a defense that didn't game plan for him or have his starters in. So that's my moral of the story here. I like Justin Fields. I hope he can play well, but let's not get too carried away. All right? Because have a good rest of your day.